Well, sunny times ahead for silver and gold. You know, I bet you UK can't wait till they get out from under the snow and they're riding a bicycle like old girl here in the sunny, warm weather because they've been getting a hell of a lot of snow. But it's almost like the financial situation. We're snowed under, right? With debt. Debt. We're just buried in it like 50 inches of snow and 50 inches of debt, right? That's what's going on all over the world. And sunshine's going to be coming in springtime if you're holding gold and silver. I know I've been saying it a while. It's been sitting flat, but if you look back, way back on, like, say, what happened in the Weimar Republic in Germany, gold sat flat, and all of a sudden it took off. It ain't going to take off like that where it's going to go to a gazillion dollars an ounce, but it's going to take off, you know. Now, I'm going to say this. Very simple market principle here. When there's chaos in the markets, typical savers head to gold. Protect your money. You know, it's been the thing all along about, you know, save gold, save silver, the sky's going to fall. But, hey, the sky looks like it's falling now. This deal with Cyprus, you know, I think I mentioned on one of the other videos, actually the report came in like later last night, that they made a deal with Cyprus, right? And anybody under 100,000 euros, they're not getting taxed, but, well, they got some other deal. But the only problem is with this, and it's scaring the markets, because actually there's other people in Europe talking about that this is a template what goes on with Cyprus for other bailouts that need to be done. So what are people going to do? Take their money out of the bank and maybe buy gold and silver. Now today, you know, prices look pretty steady. Commodities in general look pretty steady. I mean, the commodities been sitting pretty flat for a long time. This is the Commodity Research Bureau, Commodity Index, CRY, off of Reuters, off of Bloomberg, and you know, it's been sitting like this for a long time. But you know, this is the game that goes on. It almost like it's not like somebody's deliberately playing a game with people all the way. I mean, there's always shrewd chess players behind in the financial markets trying to screw the other guy. But that's just psychologically how it is. It sits flat a long time. You got to go with the basic principles and hang in there, baby. Now the Dow is down. You know, the S&P is down. The S&P is not showing up on here. But also, the Italian markets are getting creamed. They're getting clobbered, you know. So another girl here on a bicycle. This is an Italian girl on a bicycle, I'm assuming. And you know, the markets are getting clobbered in Italy, you know. So, I mean, everybody's going to be riding a bicycle if they don't have silver and gold because they're not going to be able to afford gas. That's what's going to happen. So, hey, you know, you can keep your coins down in a down tube or fill it up solid with silver, maybe, or gold. It'll be quite a weight to pedal, but hey, whatever. But, you know, the thing is, the Cyprus deal is actually the beginning. And, you know, I know some of the drama guys out there are talking about with Bernanke's remarks. You know, they play this guy up. You know, I mean, you know, there's people out there selling gold and silver. Let's, you know, put two and two together here. We know that, you know, what the obvious is. So anytime something happens, they'll take anything, any word anybody says. You know, I'm not a fan of Bernanke, but they take any word he says, and man, they just, holy shit, they run with the ball. You know, they take three words out of context and they run with the ball. So Bernanke basically said, he didn't state flat out that they would back all the U.S. deposits in the United States. He says they're covered by the FDIC up to $250,000, but you know, the FDIC almost went broke a bunch of times, right? But he didn't come out and say that the Federal Reserve would back up the FDIC no matter what. So, you know, they're actually stating a whole bunch of stuff about that too. But I gotta say, you know, you're better off keeping your money in a credit union. Now, right now, gold and silver looks super good. Super good. It's the light bulb doesn't go on with the lemmings right away, but at one point in time, it's going to be too high. Obviously, it's not too high now. I know people were selling it now, and they're like, oh, they're getting discouraged because things are sitting so flat. But, you know, it's almost like a road race on a bike. You know, old girl here is on a road race. You got to kind of pace yourself. You know, this is the other deal, too. You know, that's why I was getting annoyed at so many guys out there saying you got to have every single cent in silver. And I'm saying don't get too lopsided because basically, like, on a road race, you know, old girl here is getting ready to ride a road race, and I just look at it like this. You can't go out really hard in the beginning and blow up and not be able to last through the race. And basically, when we have this long, drawn out race like this, you see, these are like the commodities in general. You know, you could say it's conspiracy against gold and silver, but the commodities in general are going pretty flat, you know, for quite some time. They've been, you know, this is going back. You know, we had this one dip down here in the summer. This was the summer to dip. Then they talked about QE, it went up. But, you know, commodities aren't really going ballistic yet. And, you know, you're on the bike. You know, you don't want to be like throwing all your money into commodities, gold and silver, and expect to last, because that's like doing a sprint right away from the race, you know? Unless you got, you know what I'm saying, no matter how much fiat cash you have or whatever it is, if you put that much of percentage in there, you're going to get screwed up. You're going to get screwed up if you can't last a race. Now, if you know when you need to make your move and get in there hard and really, you know, like old girl here is getting plan and strategy, then you might know. Then you do it. Then you do it. But for most people, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work, because it's a guessing game when it's really going to take off. And, you know, I always said it's going to be taken off unexpectedly. But now I'm pretty much, I could see the writings on the wall. The Italian markets got hit pretty bad. The S&Ps got hit pretty good too, not really bad as the Italian markets. But you know what's going on? They're talking about, hey, this is a template for every place else there's a banking problem. And, you know, actually you think about it too, you know, our deposits in the United States are supposedly insured by the FDIC to $250,000, but I don't know. I mean, who the hell knows? Maybe the FDIC will go broke at one point in time, or what. But, you know, I think what would happen is that the FDIC probably would not go broke, but in order to insure those deposits and guarantee everything, I think the inflation's going to start coming out. The inflation's going to start coming out. So the gold and silver is making a smart move. So, and you know, I always recommend a bicycle because I always like bicycles and motorcycles, and I realized that when gold and silver go up, it's like, especially gold and oil. Oil's going to go up like crazy, and the oil company's going to rake everybody over the coals. You know, and actually, you know, you look at what's going on in the UK, the natural gas, and the gas, you know, the home heating fuel and everything. It's going way up, way up, way up. There seems to be shortages out there. So it's not just gold and silver. Actually, it's going to be oil and food are going to go way up too. But, you know, one of the ways to cut down on your transportation bills actually is the old bicycle, you know, and it's too enjoyable, except not in the winter unless you're crazy. You know, if you got spikes on your tires or something like that, because I used to try to ride my bike in the wintertime up in northern New Jersey, and damn, it was a pain. I mean, that's one reason I moved to Florida. But anyway, it'll save you a couple bucks, because I think when silver and gold move up high, two things you ought to get into besides is bicycles for saving money on fuel costs, and also gardening for saving money on food costs. So that's just how it's going to be, man. Just how it's going to be. It looks like, you know, I don't want to like say, you know, because next week there could be a downturn. You know, this is not going to like immediately pop up with gold and silver, but the average person's going to start waking up. You know, actually most people don't even, they just heard some stuff about Cyprus. That's what goes on the average American, right? They just heard some stuff about Cyprus. They're not thinking about pulling their money out of the bank. But slowly but surely, this trickle's going to start, and that's what I think. And, you know, it's almost like I was talking about with, and, you know, old girl with strategy here, you know, you have to be in for the long race. But, you know, the balance sheets on all these central banks and Federal Reserve and on the Federal Reserve have been building up because they've been buying all these troubled assets. Guess what? Guess what? They're going to have to unwind this stuff. But, you know, the other thing is, if you look back in history, central banks, they kind of like, even though they're really smart, they always fall victim to things, because what they're doing is they print more money, more money, more money. It's like money behind a dam, of the wall of a dam. Eventually, that money starts finding its home in hard assets. So right now, what happens when these central banks have to maybe unwind some of these balance sheets? What happens? What happens? So, like I said, old girl here is on a bike, and, it's like, you got to remember, it's a road race. It's not a sprint. It's a road race. And, if you try to go all out into silver and gold, especially heavy on leverage, you're going to blow up in the beginning, and you're not going to be able to make the long run. So, you got to pace yourself, and it looks like it's always been this way. A lot of times gold and silver sat flat or even pulled back a little bit before the big blow up, because that money being printed by the central banks and all the assets they're holding on their balance sheet, it's like building up behind a dam, and eventually that dam starts cracking. This always happens. This always happens, man. Always. It's just that you got these times when things are sitting pretty flat a long time. It's always like that. It's always like that. And that's why most people don't go into it, because it's not like it's a total conspiracy to discourage things, but it's the nature of things. But the smart people are in it. So just remember, it's not a sprint, it's a road race. You got to last.